Hey, so welcome back to the 9 web design profit accelerators. And now we're going to talk about winning clients, how to win clients. And this is one of the most important components. I mean, they're all important, but this is one of the most important because if you can get lots of appointments booked in your calendar, but you can't convert them at a high rate, you're going to get demoralized, you're going to get really down, and you're going to get desperate. And so when you start dealing with cold leads, people who don't know you as opposed to referrals, the conversion rate will typically go from 50 to 80% right down to 15 to 25%. And so I want to show you a technique where you can actually push that right back up to 50 to 80% again. Now, this method is beautiful because you don't have to be an extrovert. You don't have to be someone who has a big personality. Someone when they walk in the room, everyone looks at them and they're the center of attention, which typically you see as a great salesman. You know, you think that a great salesman is that kind of a person. But the reality is, those people have real challenges. Some of the challenges is they can't shut up. They can't stop talking. They dominate. They turn a lot of people off. And so if you are an introvert, this process works beautifully. It's a script that we use, and it works whether you're an introvert, and if you're an extrovert, if you can close your mouth, it works just as well. All right, so let's go to the iPad and let's have a look at how this works. So the process of winning clients when you're selling websites is pretty simple. Firstly, what you want to do is you want to have 2 meetings. So this is the first meeting and this is the second meeting. The first meeting is called a strategy call. And the strategy call really is there to establish credibility and qualify the prospect. The second meeting is to convert the prospect, right? So the first is to qualify, the second is to convert. But between the 2 meetings, you need space. You need time for the person to think about that first meeting, what you spoke in that first meeting. Because if you don't have the space, then they don't get to, I guess, percolate what was brought up. And what's important to bring up in that first meeting is the concept of diagnose and prescribe. And so think about this as a doctor. A doctor will typically sit there with a patient and initially diagnose a problem. They'll come up with a problem and say, hey, do you have this problem when I touch here? Does it hurt when I touch there? And they'll ask a whole bunch of questions. And the more questions they ask, the more confidence you have in them when you have a positive response. And so the first thing you need to do is that. There's a great quote by Wyatt Woodsmall. It says, if you can articulate someone's problem better than they can, they'll automatically and unconsciously credit you with having the solution. So this first meeting, this strategy meeting, the whole idea is to have a meeting where you get the client to identify their problems. Now, you know what their problems are around the website. You know it's probably useless. There's no leads. They're not getting any new prospects. They're not getting traffic. You know, there's a whole bunch of problems. But you need to get the client to say that. Because if you say it, you're just a parent or a nagging husband or a nagging wife nagging, right? Telling them it's not their idea. The whole idea is in that meeting is to get them to see it, get them to say it, and when they say it, it becomes real to them. All of a sudden, you're not the person selling, you're the doctor diagnosing a problem, okay? The second thing you have to do is prescribe. So back to here. Once you identify a problem, then you start prescribing a solution. And that's what you do in the delivery meeting. You start to prescribe a solution. So that first meeting is where you diagnose. So this is where you diagnose. And then this meeting is where you prescribe. Okay, so that's why you need the 2 meetings. And the gap in the middle, the space is so they can think about the problems that they have. All right, so become a doctor, right? That's the diagnose and then prescribe. The other thing you need to do is you need to identify the need first. In this first meeting, what we're doing is identifying the need that the client has. We have to really, you can only sell something to someone if they have a problem to fix. If they don't have a problem, then they won't buy it, right? And if their problem is really small, they also won't buy it. So you need to identify a big problem that they have. And like we said before, they need to be the one that mentions it. The other thing you're doing in that first meeting and the second meeting is creating a gap. You need to create a gap between where they are now and where they want to be around their website. Right now, they have no leads. In the next 6 months, they want lots of leads. Right now, they have no traffic. In the next 6 months, they want lots of traffic. Right now, their business is stagnant. In 6 months, they want the business to be thriving. You need to establish the gap because the gap is what is going to motivate them to fill. They're going to want to fill that gap. They want to bridge the gap. And who's going to bridge the gap? It's going to be you. It's going to be you, and it's going to be your IP framework that is the solution to bridge the gap. Now, if you haven't watched the video on IP framework, you need to watch it because we're using it in this sales process. All right, so the last thing you've got to do is, and just know that if you can do this properly, the client sells themselves. Okay, you're not trying to sell. This is what's beautiful. And really, these 2 meetings is a series of scripted questions that you ask the clients. And when you ask the right questions and they come up with the answer themselves, you're not actually selling, they're selling themselves. Now, I know it sounds a bit out there, but it's just not. It's just human nature. Have you ever tried to tell a 3-year-old what to do and they just go, no? All right? What you do with a 3-year-old is you let them think it's their idea. And whether you're 3, whether you're 10, whether you're 18, 30, 40, or 80, it's the same thing. Nobody wants to be told what to do. And if you want to be great at sales, you need to bring the client in and let them identify their problem, let them identify their gap, and let them identify that, hey, can you help me? One of the things we do in this meeting, one of the questions is, how can I help you? How can I help you bridge this gap? And they tell you, oh, I think you could help me with this. I think you could build an awesome website. I think you can get us more leads. I think you could. And when they're saying that, all of a sudden they're selling themselves. Okay, I could go on forever, but I'm not going to go on forever because what I want to do is just let you know that if this is something that you know you need in your business and you don't have a scripted sales process, and you've heard me talk about diagnosing, prescribing, and identifying needs and creating a gap, and you're like, where do I start? I want to offer you the opportunity to book in a scale session with me. It's basically a 15-minute chat. And on that call, we're going to look at some of these parts of the 9 web design profit accelerators, and we're going to see which ones apply to you in the next 90 days. So around this video, click a button, fill in the application form, book a time with me. I look forward to speaking to you soon.